more about it than I know about my own actual United States history, which I do know a lot about United States history too. That's why I link with Fallout. Like that's why me and Fallout as an entity, we click. So I just got to figure out how to click with Bethesda. Because if I can get in with Bethesda, then me, Fallout, and Bethesda, there is no limit to what we could do with that Fallout story. But if back to the Enclave deal, if the Enclave have all these different hidden bunkers across the United States, not counting the other, what would it be, 15 control vaults that we, or 14 or whatever it is now, that we haven't seen, I think those are all backup deals. You know, like Vault 13 was a different deal because they had a different leadership. Dick Richardson, he did that. Like he was a part of that somehow. Was okay with the super mutant deal and all that because they even did experiments on what's his name? Can't even think of his dang name. Frank Horgan. Yeah, made him like he's like basically a behemoth, but where he had a lot more self control. So they probably did FEV him in the brain a little bit, and that's why he has the intelligence, and he's not like I'm dumb, super mutant. Yeah, he's not dumb. He's actually smart. He's like simplify, So he's all about military. So he still has most of his mind intact. So they flat out experimented on him a lot. By then, they've already figured out all the stuff with FEV. That's why Frank Horgan was as powerful as he was. And then if you go back to the other games, I loved like just watching Oxhorn play Fallout Tactics. That's why I like the Chicago vibe. I like what people classify as the Midwest Brotherhood idea. I'm not going to call it the Midwest Brotherhood necessarily. I have a different idea for that. And I think the Brotherhood, if they're going to be a big enough faction and have all this technology and they want to take more technology, there's going to be so many more elders of different chapters of the Brotherhood. And Author Maxon, I think his name should be Jonathan Author Maxon, by the way, but he goes by his middle name. So that's when you meet him in Fallout 4, he's the new elder of that branch that brought the outcasts back in and revamped the new Brotherhood back to let's kill ghouls and things that are not pure. So they're basically the Enclave. They're doing the same thing. So the whoever the Midwest Brotherhood is, or whatever chapter that is that would be considered a Midwest Brotherhood by fan named type deal, I think that that branch of the Brotherhood is going to be totally different than any of the Brotherhood branches that we've seen. Because if they're letting super mutants and ghouls into the Brotherhood, and supposedly even talking Deathclaws, which I don't know if I want that. I don't know if I want that in the game. Like, I mean, that could be a thing, but I wouldn't have very many of them. I would make that like a rarity, like maybe like 2 or 3 Deathclaws that talk and they're got some kind of weird armor on them or something, and they just have them do like certain tasks over here and just kind of pawn them off on stuff that we don't know if they're going to make it or not. But I think there should be like maybe one super mutant and maybe one ghoul that has climbed the ranks up to be elders in the Brotherhood still, but they're in a branch that we haven't seen yet. But they're branched off of the little detachment that crash landed in Chicago, and then somebody, which I'm not going to say who, finally ends up, whoever the High Elder was of all the Brotherhood that took over the actual full, like the main guy of all the different chapters of the Brotherhood. There's Elder of the Brotherhood of Steel for this chapter, but I think there should be a High Elder or something higher than that, which is the main guy of where they all come to a certain place and meet, and you have to, if you got different Pridwin like blimps, or if you're rolling in a vertibird, whatever, you have certain missions where you're supposed to report back. The elders themselves are supposed to report back to whoever the high overall elder is, the overall high elder, and then they'll all meet at whatever that location is, and then get their orders, and then they'll go back to their set commonwealths, and then do whatever missions that the high elder, and them have discussed. And from elder to elder to high elder, you can conversate like, sit there and conversate because you're basically the same level. It's not nobody's bossing anybody around. They'll be like, I request that this here is taking place and that you take care of your men, elder. And then he's like, yes, sir, high elder. So they do talk with respect for each other, but neither side's technically going to override the other. It's just like, okay, well, if you're cool with this and you go do that, you don't want ghouls on your squad? Okay, cool. Well, hey, Tommy, come here. Send these ghoul soldiers of the Brotherhood with this other elder because he actually is a ghoul. These guys don't want ghouls with them, and they divide it up like that, so it makes sense. That way it works. It just works. Just kidding. No, I'm just playing, Todd. But anyway, if you do it like that, the Brotherhood would be an ultimate force, and it would be up there as an equal to how awesome the Enclave, the next generation of the Enclave, and I say the next generation because I believe the Enclave have hundreds, if not thousands, of soldiers that are cryogenically frozen, that their vaults or bunkers, whatever they're in, being frozen, have different set years that releases. Either every 20 to 25 years, different generations are released. Their pods open, and then they go out and do whatever mission log. And then from that same bunker or same vault, there could be some that are still frozen and they're not released yet because that each cryogenic thing has a different timer to release certain people at a certain time. So that's why you have different waves of Enclave showing up in different parts of the world, or in the United States, in different commonwealths at different times. They're not going to release all of them. Now, the very huge, the biggest force that you'll probably ever see if they ever make a Fallout game that has this, that I'm basing it on what I believe, that force of the Enclave will come out in the year 3077 when the Enclave deems the Earth will be clear of all radiation. I think that's going to happen. I think that's what their overall goal is. And I think, I don't want to spoil it for what I'm trying to do, but I will say this. I think John Henry Eden, there is a man, an actual human being of the name John Henry Eden, and I think he was the actual guy that was handpicked by the Enclave to actually be the future president in the year 3077, and he's cryogenically frozen too, and he had recorded stuff of him saying things, so when the computer, Zax, started putting all these personalities together, he added that John Henry Eden as the voice from an actual John Henry Eden that was a real person. He took his voice and Abraham Lincoln characteristics and different presidents, and that's why that Zax computer did that in Fallout 3. But I believe there's really going to be an actual real John Henry Eden later in the story. And he's going to be like, wait, what? And then somebody that knew stuff from Fallout 3 is going to be like, yeah, there was a Zax computer that was saying they were you. And he's like, well, that's absurd. Why would they do that? Why would they do such a thing and make me out to be a robot when I'm standing right here? You can clearly see I'm human as can be. We need to rebuild America. I think it's going to be something like that the real John Henry Eden is going to be like, well, I'm not even, he's not going to be someone that's wanting to kill all humanity. Like, oh, you're a ghoul? Well, good for you. If you want to be a citizen in my America, you can. And then the other side of the Enclave is like, they're getting mission logs, so they're just carrying out missions that wipe out everything that's not human. And I think once he takes a role where he's supposed to be, if they allow it, then I think that those Enclave guys are going to be like, well, if he's the president, then we'll follow what he says. All right, all ghouls can live. But I think it's going to be too late. At the very end of all the Fallouts, at the very end of, if there is ever an end of Fallout, whole entire timeline, I think it's going to be too late that whoever the last generation of Enclave are going to wipe the Earth clean and possibly be able to rebuild it. And whatever the very last game is, you will probably end up being the one that decides at the very, very end, do we allow ghouls and super mutants and other genetic freaks to be the new norm? Or do you side with the actual stern side of the Enclave and wipe everything clean? Because that's been their mission since Fallout 2. So eventually they will prevail. It will come down to a final game of Fallout, I believe, where you either prevail or you go against the Enclave completely and it stomps them out. And then from there on, everything still is like it is. Now, maybe most of the beasts and things like Deathclaws, all the rabid ones, rabid or whatever, the ones that would kill you in an instant, I think all that stuff's going to be completely wiped off the earth. I think that could happen. But then all the people that are normal, that all the ghouls that, let's say, don't turn feral, I think they could have what do they call that, a Futopia type world. I think that could be a thing. But anyway, I don't want to spoil it because I don't know if that's what's going to happen for sure or not. But that's what I would do if I was, secretly the writer of any of the Fallouts or the future Fallouts. That's what I would do with it. I would make it where you, the player, we're the fans. We're the ones buying these games. We're spending our money and buying these games. And if I got a chance to be the writer, I would want a story that's like super twisting and turning, but you don't know if that's actually going to happen because every game you play, you never know what the lore actually is going to be. When you're playing the game, it gives you all these dang choices. You could end the game 7 ways, let's say 8. So we're never going to know what the lore is until the very end of the end. You know what I'm saying? Like after the end of the end. They'll have to come out with some kind of like spin-off that doesn't really matter to the lore, but has a little bit of lore at the very, very end. That way you know what actually happened at the very end of the last game. It's always been that way. Or they come up with another game where it tells you hints, like Project Purity. Oh, like Deacon says, Capital Wasteland. Good for Project Purity and whatever the other line he says. But anyway, back to this guy. This guy right here is the one who said that, and I'm giving him full credit. This is the dude's name right over here in the corner. I don't know if you see that. But anyways, I'm giving that guy the credit for that. But anyways, I don't know what else to say. I think this has been probably the longest video I've made. It's almost like 40 minutes. But anyways, guys, please like and subscribe, and I'll be making another video. So remember, true follower out.